Hello and welcome back to my channel, the Traveling Knitter channel. My name is Steph and I live in downtown Columbus, Ohio, which is in the United States. Today's video is going to be my August wrap-up. It's going to be fairly short because I only read 4 books, but it's fine. At least I read some books. You know, I just have to keep telling myself it's better than last year. Last year was my worst reading year, honestly, probably since I started to read. So literally since I was 9, last year was the worst. Did I even hit 50 books? So yeah, it was bad. Anyway, this month I read a total of 4 books and I actually have all 4 of them with me, which is unique. So let's just start. The first book I read was The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, and this is based on a powerful true story of love and survival. I didn't love this as much as I normally love World War II historical fiction. Well, yeah, it's still historical fiction if it's based on true. And you know, not every single book is going to be the best for you, right? Everyone has, books are falling. Everyone has different opinions, different things that they like in books, and unfortunately, this is just one of those that I thought was just okay. This book follows Lale, who is a Jewish man who is deported to Auschwitz, and the way that he survives is a man kind of picks him up and says, hey, you're gonna be my assistant and help tattoo the numbers on all of the prisoners that come in. And really, that's how he survives. He's able to, he gets, you know, additional privileges. He's told at some point, you know, always carry your bag and say that you're on business. Wherever you're going, you're less likely to deal with issues. You're less likely to get shot and killed, essentially. And while he is tattooing, he basically falls in love on site with this woman named Gita, who comes in, and it's a story of survival. It's a love story. The issues that I kind of had with this book was that I felt like it was so simple. This man sees this woman who's like, she's like 8 or 10 years younger than him. And he basically becomes obsessed with her. And I don't know. It just didn't sit with me. I mean, it's based on a true story. The author interviews the family that this is based on, and I like that aspect. I like at the end just the additional information. The foreword is by the grandson of Lale, so I like those pieces, those elements of it, but I had a really hard time with the insta love because it basically was insta love, but it's based on a true story. They you know, do fall in love. So there is a second book for this. I can't remember what it follows, but I think I will read the second one, and I might just pick it up on audio and enjoy it that way. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. If it sounds good to you, I would still pick it up. It is a very quick read. The chapters are pretty short. It's 200 and something pages, 250 pages, so you can breeze through this. The next book that I read was The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. I finally finished the Winter Night trilogy. I always mess up on this. What is this trilogy called? Okay, does it not say? Cool, it doesn't. I have a signed edition. I did get to see Catherine Arden speak at the Columbus Library before the pandemic hit. It was one of the last public like things like that I did, I'm pretty sure. Kind of all blends together, but the Columbus Library was going to have a whole series of author talks, and I had added them all to my calendar, and then of course everything got canceled. I don't think this stuff went virtual because I think it was too early in the pandemic, but I lucked out, and Catherine Arden did come to the Columbus Library and she signed all of my books, which was so nice because some of the author signings that I've gone to, they only will sign like 2 books unless you buy every single one of them there. And I'm a little picky with my book editions because I do own so many books, and they're part of my decor of my living room area. My apartment doesn't really have a dining room. It's kind of like a living room and an office in one area. Hashtag COVID, work from home. So anyway, that was a whole rant. I love this edition. Like, the back is just beautiful. These are the UK Penguin paperback editions. You can buy them on, I think you can buy them on Amazon, and there is also a book website where you can buy UK European editions if you're in the US. I will say it is pretty expensive. I would guess it's because of the regulations on the publishing industry. So I'm only going to speak from my perspective of going to Germany, but in Germany, the price that's on the book is the price that you're paying. Like, it's uber rare to get any sort of sales on books, and a lot of times the books are like cellophane wrapped, so you can't even go look at the book, and the books are like 25 euros. Also, for like fantasy books, they'll split out the books. So like the Way of Kings series, you know, that's one book. But in Germany, it's like 2 books or 3 books, and they're already so expensive. So you're spending like almost $100 on one book, whereas in the US, you can get it on Amazon for like 18. So I have a really hard time justifying buying books when I'm abroad because of how expensive it is and how much cheaper books are in the US. But also, margins are super slim in the publishing industry here, so I grapple with that. I grapple. So anyway, what is this book about, you may be wondering? Well, this is the 3rd book in a series in the trilogy, so I can't really tell you what this one is about. The first one is about Vasya, and Vasya lives in this like remote Russian village, and her father is like the chieftain. I forget what it's called. So her family is kind of like in control, but not in like a negative way. You know, he just makes sure that trade comes and all that jazz. And it follows her growing up, and she's a peculiar child because she sees the spirits that are around them. So there's these little creatures that are kind of with the old religion. So there is like a little creature that lives in the stove to help keep the homes warm. There are creatures that are in the water. There's like a stable one that helps with taking care of the horses. So there are these little creatures that kind of help your lives, and she can see them. And as she grows up, she kind of continues to butt heads with her stepmother, who her stepmother is definitely more like wants to bring, I think it's Christianity, into their world. So she gets this like priest to come, and this priest, I've said it before, he reminds me of Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, in that he like hates her, but he's also obsessed with her and has this like infatuation with her. It just like it. I wish I had like asked the question on if he was based on Frollo, because I just see it so much. So Vasya is, you know, just so against this new religion because it's making those creatures kind of disappear, and they're having a harder and harder winter. And cut to the second and third book, she's basically trying to save the world. They're fantastic. The first one, I would say, is a little bit more slow. The second and the third definitely have a more high stakes plot, I think. I really recommend them. I think they're fantastic. And I did end up giving the last one in the trilogy 5 stars. It was a really good wrap up to the whole series. It's sad, you know, there's elements of sadness, but in the end, I thought it wrapped up the trilogy really well. Next up, I read A Pocket Full of Crows by Joanne M. Harris. I'd never heard of this book. I picked it up because of the cover being beautiful, and then when I opened it, it has a bunch of illustrations at the beginning of each chapter, and sometimes at the end of the chapter. I thought this would be, you know, lovely to read. This was interesting and very, very quick to read. Like, you can see there's not a lot of words on each page. Chapters are between 2 and 7 pages long. But this is about a fairy folk. She lives in the woods, and she's like on the fringes of society, but that's how she wants it. But then all of a sudden she sees this prince, and she kind of saves his life, and she becomes obsessed. She falls in love, is obsessed, and he takes her back to his castle, and she's like, I think she's like 13 or 14, and he, you know, says he's in love with her, all this jazz, and kind of tries to tame her. And by taming her, he gives her a name, and by giving her a name, she loses her magical abilities, which is to shapeshift into animals. And he kind of just drops her because, you know, that's what privileged princes tend to do in stories. So he just drops her. So she takes revenge on the prince, as well as her maid Fiona, who has kind of taken her place in the prince's eyes of affection. And yeah, she's obsessed with revenge, as well as gaining her magical powers back. And she's being told that to gain her magical powers, she must do these certain things, which is essentially enacting revenge. I feel like it is a fairy tale or based off of something. It was a quick read. This would probably be a really nice audio. I don't know if there is an audiobook for this, but I think it would be really nice as an audio, because it's kind of told in almost like a poem style. I think it's because of the short chapters. And it's told in first person. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. And then the last book that I read was The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Kat Sebastian. And this was just, I just randomly picked it up. I was looking for, you know, a quick romance novel, and this definitely was. It is about Kit, this guy, and Percy. Kit used to be this like highway robber criminal dude, and now he owns a coffee shop. And Percy is a lord. He's a member of the gentry, and he is wanting to steal something from his father. And so he hires Kit to do said stealing, but Kit, he's retired because his leg is bad. So he injured his leg and has a hard time walking. So definitely can't hold up a stagecoach anymore. But they instead have a deal where Kit will teach Percy how to do this heist. And they fall in love, of course, because it's a romance novel. This was really cute. I enjoyed the plot, and I am going to read the second. So the second one follows Percy's best friend, who you are kind of introduced to in this book, and you can tell right away that something's going on. And to be honest, before I even got to the part that said you're going to read about her, literally, I think as soon as we get that she's climbing in and out of windows and Percy's like, why is she doing that? She lives here. I was like, oh, I bet I know who her love interest is. Because that's just how romance novels go, right? You start and end one book with two characters, and then you move to side characters that were in the first one, and they have their story. That is your typical way of creating a romance series. So I am looking forward to reading that second one. I really liked it. Now this is definitely graphic. How graphic would I say? I have a hard time with rating that because I'm not very sensitive to graphic things. I'm not sensitive to like extreme sexual graphics. I'm not sensitive to extreme violence or gore. I don't know. I've never really been super sensitive to any of that. I was watching like gore horror movies when I was 13. Like I remember watching Wolf Creek, Hostel, Saw. I watched many Saws when I was like 13. So, and it's fine. Wasn't scared, didn't have any nightmares, didn't really jump at any of it. It was just kind of like, I almost feel like it's maybe just because like there's a very clear separation between what's real and what's not real in my head. And watching it on TV is, it's not, none of it's real. Unless of course I'm watching the news. And then as my journalism background, I a lot of times question, why are we showing this? Because I was taught in school that anytime you're going to show something really graphic, you have to have this moral conversation between yourself, with your newscast, with your network. What is the benefit of showing this? Is someone going to learn something from this? Or are you doing it for pure shock value? Because if you are, that's not the right decision. Don't show it. That's, when you see someone be murdered or shot, there's no need to show that unless, again, you have to have that conversation. So where are we going with this? Basically, if I were to do a scale of 1, nothing graphic, 2, slightly, 3, graphic, this is a 3. As I think most of the romance novels that I read are 3s. I don't know. But anyway, I ended up giving this 4 stars. I was kind of juggling between a 3 and a 4. And I went with 4 because I did enjoy it. But what kind of pulled me away was the language and the mannerisms. This was supposed to be set in let me go to the front because I think it says 1751. 1751. And they were talking like it was 2020. So that was probably the biggest problem that I had, was just the language, the mannerisms, that it just did not feel like it was 1750. That's 270 years ago. And I don't think people said shut up back then. So yeah, like I said, 4 stars. But that is it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If any of these books sound interesting to you, let me know down in the comments or follow me on Goodreads. And I will catch you guys later in the next video. Bye.